I think some of that, and I don't know where people are, what people's experiences are that may lend them to think, oh, that's the best solution. There are across the state buildings that are built intentionally to have middle and high school students, but those buildings are built with that purpose in mind. They're designed to have more gymnasiums because you're going to have middle school and high school gym classes happening at the same time. They're designed to allow middle school students to be in a separate wing of the building compared to high school students. I will tell you, and I know some folks have said, well, I was a 7th grader who was in with high school students, and that was many, many decades ago. Today, parents are very unsettled about middle school students being in the same building as high school students. People are worried when their 12-year-old daughter is in a building with 17-year-old young men. Now, I think the world is a different place than it was many decades ago. Social media is very toxic and influential on children, and parents are naturally protective of their children. And so, again, on the superficial level, just do that. But that's not what parents are comfortable with. And I certainly respect that. Yeah, I am. So first, I just want to say that I appreciate that our commissioners are putting their nose to the grindstone and turning over every stone and examining different strategies to be able to fulfill our commitment to the community around a new middle school facility. Just this week we met, and I know Commissioner Price put forward a proposal that would help find some funds to help go towards the middle school. And it's certainly, I want to make sure it's not my place to comment on the commissioners. I just want to acknowledge that I respect greatly that as leaders they are diligently looking at what is possible and recognizing that we are moving beyond a simple step one of well, maybe the state will come in and rescue us, right? That they are moving more deeply into the next phases of figuring this out and examining different strategies. I respect that, I appreciate that, and I think that's leadership on behalf of our whole community. So to support the commissioners and everyone in understanding where we are with this middle school project, we have a number of things coming up. So in our September Board of Education meeting, the architects will be doing a presentation so people can see the design, because we are really finalizing that in the upcoming weeks, and the architects will be there in September to present. In addition to that, we will be holding community meetings at the high school where the whole community can come and see the presentation. And I also have the architects and our stadium authority. We have the stadium authority as our project manager, and Dr. Lever, who's our consultant, who's helping us work through this process, to present to the commissioners, working with Ms. Heller to try to get that scheduled sometime in September as well, so that the commissioners can speak directly to everyone connected to this project to understand exactly where we are, how close we are, and to be able to ask questions directly to our project manager and architect. What's also important to keep in mind is that as we are working to build a replacement building for our middle school program, part of that replacement incorporates 5th grade. So the new building would have 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th graders in that building, which is a traditional model here in Kent County, and parents are comfortable with our 5th graders being with middle school students. And what that does for us in the bigger picture of our public school system is it opens up space in our 3 elementary schools to expand our early childhood. We know Kent County is a leader in the state around early childhood education. We were the first in the state to offer universal pre-K for 4-year-olds. we're very proud of that. There are systems in the state who it will take them decades and decades to catch up to where Kent County is for early childhood. In addition to that, through leveraging a grant, we are expanding our pre-K program for 3-year-olds. This year, we're opening up a pre-K program in partnership with a local church who had facility space for us to use. So by our 5th graders moving into this new middle school facility, it allows us to expand early childhood programming to 3-year-olds throughout the county, which is a great need for our families with young children. In addition, the use of the Wharton building provides us some greater flexibility for us as a whole community. So one thing that I've discussed with the commissioners, and I know Mr. Fithian is certainly interested in how do we make good use of the Wharton building, which I agree, we're part of the whole community. One, we're examining relocating the Board of Education and the central office from the current Rock Hall building to the Wharton building. That is a very sensible move, and it allows me to be literally minutes away from 60% of our schools and equidistant between our 2 elementary schools at the north and south end of the county. So it's a very functional move for us. In addition, I know that the county has need to reduce its rental, the amount of money it spends on rent for other county agencies. The Board of Elections is one of them, and Ms. Heller and I have walked through Wharton and we've identified sections in that building that would be beneficial for the Board of Elections. If we were to vacate the current central office in Rock Hall and turn that back over to the county, that too becomes a space in which the county could potentially relocate and use and alleviate the amount of rent they pay for other agencies, or they could rent that out and generate some revenue in renting that space. And so again, this is all part of a larger puzzle piece. I offer that it's important for us to think broadly around, we can create several wins if we go about this in a very intentional way, recognizing that building a replacement middle school is one part of a multi-part puzzle for us to solve as a whole community, and that it's not one against the other, but how do we optimize these moves for everyone's benefit. And so that is part of what I would offer people may not be aware of. I would also like to take a minute to talk about our achievement, because I've also heard, those who are, for whatever reason, trying to derail our efforts to revitalize our school will often use our achievement against us. And I will be the first to say we have room to improve, and we are very focused on that improvement. And I want to share some data with the community, and I would encourage them to go back and watch the Board of Education meeting we just had in July. It's a very extensive data discussion on measures of academic performance, often referred to as MAP achievement, actually MAP growth achievement. And that is a national assessment. It's not a state assessment, it's a national assessment. So you can see how our students are performing against other students across the nation at grade level in math and reading. We are currently waiting for our spring state test data. That has not been released yet. The state typically releases that late August, early September. Once they present it to the state board, then we have it and we're able to present it to our local community. So I am eagerly awaiting that. But what's important to know is some people want to point out the averages. First of all, what is an average, right? What is an average? If we average everyone's weight together, what does that really tell us? It tells us some people are better and some people are less, and in the middle, that's what the average is. What I would offer as an educator of 30 years and someone who knows education, that we actually look very closely at the data. Data is a flashlight for us, and it tells us something. And if you look at our data, whether it is state data or the national map data, what you will see is a clear line of demarcation. Students who are in this year's 4th grade is the first cohort of students who have come to school after the massive disruption of the pandemic. This is a benchmark group of students to watch because they show you the difference of the before and the after. So if you watch students in this particular cohort, what you will see is the significant improvement that is a function of several things. It is a function of 1, uninterrupted education. 2, a function of our significant shift in the way we teach literacy. We implemented, and we are the only school system in the state doing this, implementing Orton-Gillingham as our method of teaching literacy, and we are seeing remarkable gains. To the point, I just want to quote, on our MCAP data for that cohort, and we don't have this spring's test data, so last year when they were in 3rd grade, they had made a 21% gain in 2 years in reading, and they had made a 12% gain in math in 2 years. So I look forward to their data from the state for this year. We also made a change in our math curriculum. Now we are working really diligently around that, and if you go to the July Board of Education meeting, you will hear me, as well as this past week, I think at the commissioners, or maybe the meeting before that, I cite the level of improvement by grade level in math. So are we where we need to be? Absolutely not. Are we moving? Absolutely, we are moving. So for those critics who want to gaslight our children for academic struggles, I would argue, look at the details. I would also say, in terms of math, it's important for the community to know that the state has just changed its math standards. They approved a new math policy in the spring, which is reorganizing math curriculum. And they just in July approved new math standards. It's also important to know that the state is in the process of contracting for new state tests. So there's going to be new standards and new instruments to measure how students are doing. So I just share that to say it's the context matters, right? And for people who want to gaslight or just, say, the kids aren't doing well, we shouldn't invest. Well, underinvesting is going to help with achievement. That's what I was like, okay, so our children are struggling to learn and our teachers are struggling to help our students learn. So by not investing, we think that's going to help? Logic doesn't hold for me. I've heard people say, our middle school is small and why should we spend that much money for so few students? I think it's important for people, that's a short-sighted comment. I think it's important for people to understand we're not investing this money for just the number of students we have today. Given that we don't build schools every 5 years, we don't build a school, we haven't built a school in over 50 years. We're talking about investing money. If we have 450 students in that middle school times 50 years, that is 22,000 students is who we're building this school for. We're building this school not for the students we have today, but for the students we will have in 5 years, 17 years, 30 years from now. And so to say it's too much money to invest in too few students, again, that's shallow, superficial, and short-sighted for our community. And I would offer people to really think about what we're doing here and why we're doing it. So I think it's also important for people to understand that in the ed specifications and feasibility study, it was determined that our current building, which is 70 years old, is not worth repairing or renovating. We currently are struggling with failing infrastructure. Our students lost 3 days of instruction this year because the sewer system is collapsing underneath the building. because that's the original sewer system from 1949. We've also struggled with lots of different facility challenges in that building. And so it's important to know it's not a matter of renovation, that's been eliminated as a feasible option. We've already discussed that the Wharton building itself is 50 years old and likewise needs significant improvements. I know that some folks would have us wait until we have all our dollars and cents in our hand right now. However, the longer we delay construction, the cost goes up. There is an escalation fee in terms of, or an escalation in cost, and that is something that the state will not offset, right? The state has made commitments around what it will provide. And if we delay and the cost goes up, the state will not add money because we decided to wait and the cost increased.